Have you ever wondered what it's like to work with a business coach? Or maybe you've just been a little curious about what's the difference in a coach, a mentor, an advisor, a consultant, a specialist, a strategist, all the things that are out there and all the ways that people are labeling themselves. And what exactly is it that you need to elevate and grow your business based on exactly where you are? And even if you've already worked with a coach and you're kind of hearing this and you're like, I already know what it's like to work with a coach, let me skip on to a different episode or a different podcast. I think there's still going to be some golden nuggets in this episode for you. And I'm going to take you guys through the Rolodex of my history and some of the mentors and coaches that I have had and what that was like over the years and that kind of specific evolution and just some of my opinions on all of this. So let's dive in. Welcome back to the Messy Success Podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Henson. I help creative business owners and artists build communities around your brand so that business is easy and profitable. When you stay in action, yes, I mean even messy action, only good things happen. We are always learning, and when we can get just as excited about the lessons as the results, magic happens. I've helped million-dollar companies with their marketing, but my mission in this world is to help you step into the best possible version of yourself so you can create your dream business too. We believe in community and people over strategies and tactics. Our theme here at the Messy Success Podcast is the 1% adventure, where we're focusing on getting 1% better every single day. I want you to color outside the lines and embrace the messy journey to take daily action towards your goals. If you've noticed a plateau in your business, we've created a very quick quiz where you can find out your next best move. Head over to elizabethhenson.co/next to find out. Now let's get started. All right, let's dive in. How is everyone today? Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited. And, you guys know the drill, but if you are interested in learning more about working with me, you can go to elizabethhenson.co/elevate. That is my signature program. It is a hybrid coaching program, which I'll tell you a little bit more as we kind of dive into some of these differences. But I wanted to put that there for you just to put in the back of your mind as you're listening to some of this and invite you to join that priority list. Because it's not always quick to get in. Sometimes you have to wait for spaces to open or for us to open the doors to the public. It really all kind of depends. So elizabethhenson.co/elevate. It is one-to-one coaching as well as group coaching. It's a hybrid. So let's talk about business coaching and what that really means and the difference and all these phrases and things that are out there. And I'm also going to take you through the journey of my coaches and what that kind of looked like over the years, because I cannot believe that we are in 2025. I opened my business in January of 2013. That is insane to me that I have been a business owner for 12 years. I'm just sitting with that for a second because that is wild. So let's talk about that, what it was like when I just got started. So I started off as a photographer, as many of you guys know, and I had always loved photography. I have this beautiful origin story where my mom gave me, my first Nikon camera, and I boohoo cried. And at the time, I was waiting tables at a restaurant here in Virginia Beach called Bubba's. And there was another server there with me. Her name was Amanda. And she was a very new up and coming photographer in the area. I mean, she was just getting started. And I just had never met anyone that did photography as a job, like their actual job. I had only really been exposed to photographers in the form of like fine artists. And so no one had really showed me what was possible. And I just followed along Amanda's journey, ended up hiring her to photograph our wedding, which she did a phenomenal job in 2012. So all of this was before I actually opened my business. I was just an observer of her. I was just observing her getting started in her business. And then fast forward to when I did start my photography business, of course, she was the first one that I called on, and she would host these Q&As is what she called them. And this is very much in the mentoring bucket. Okay. What Amanda was doing was mentoring. So my very first exposure in the business world to having someone to help me was having Amanda as my mentor. So let's talk about mentors and like what makes them different than a coach. So mentors really focus on their own personal experience and, they're sharing wisdom. So they're kind of saying, I've been where you are. Let me share what I've learned. They're a little bit ahead of you and they're completely happy and open to share how they got there. This is more of an informal style. It's sometimes unpaid. It's usually a slightly lower investment because it's really offering advice based on their unique journey. And the goal is usually to pass on some of those insights, those wisdom nuggets and guidance, for someone who's a little bit behind them in the journey. This is usually very relationship driven, and they usually have shared values and there's a lot of trust there. But photography mentoring was very, very popular when I was getting started. I'm sure it still is. And that's really how I started teaching people as well, is that I ended up becoming a photography mentor as well. And a lot of people in our industry, this online entrepreneur world, are mentoring and they're calling it coaching or they're calling it being a strategist. And that's not wrong. Like, let's not get lost or tangled up in semantics here. I'm not saying someone's not worth, the investment. I'm not saying they don't know what they're doing, but I do think there's a level of like, we all just have to be on our own journey and grow and learn to distinguish some of these differences. And if you're the one that's looking for help, that's looking to grow your business, I do think this is really important because, if you're starting off brand new, a mentor could be a wonderful solution to just get you started. Okay. But you just have to remember that they're just teaching you what worked for them. And this business in general is not a one size fits all approach. Okay. So after Amanda, I started working with Sharon, who is on the podcast recently. Sharon was one of my early photography mentors as well. And Sharon was also very much of a mentor, but Sharon had some coaching skills in her pocket. So I would say Sharon was a combination of a coach and a mentor. So let's talk about what some of these differences are. So a business coach, and this is what I would definitely define myself as a business coach. They're really all about unlocking potential, improving mindsets, teaching you to be a leader, and like the really long-term business strategies. Coaches know how to ask really powerful questions. Sometimes they offer frameworks, and they're helping the clients find their own answers. Okay? So this is really not about here's how I did it, just copy and paste. This is like they know how to dig in and unlock your unique path based on how you want to do it and how you operate best. Coaches are really good at kind of asking questions and stepping back and letting you untangle it all. And the goal with a coach is that growth through accountability, reflection, and strategic direction. And these relationships are usually a little bit longer term and they're deeply transformational. We're talking like this is how you unlock a different version of yourself that can quantum leap. think they're your partner in growth who helps you work on your business and not just in it, right? A mentor can give you the steps to follow, but a coach is really going to help you unlock a totally new version of yourself, breakthroughs, this inner work, what I just call self-development at the end of the day. They're really infusing that. And Sharon was a really cool combination of both. She did do a lot of mentoring. She did a lot of very direct, here's what I recommend. But she always infused these thought-provoking questions that helped her kind of guide what advice that she wanted to give. So there are definitely people that are both. You can be a mentor and a coach. I am primarily a business coach. That's what makes me valuable. But there are moments where I mentor. There are moments where I'm an advisor, and we'll talk about that one next. But I'm infusing a lot of those different skills, but it's all coming from the main backbone of the business coaching style, because I don't ever want someone to walk away from working with me and be like, I wrote this email exactly how you told me to, or I did this social media post exactly how we planned out, and it didn't get any sales, or it didn't get the transformation that you were promising. Because just because that worked for me doesn't mean that's going to work for somebody else. We all have our own really unique energetic signatures and frequencies in the world, and we can say the exact same words and it will land completely different with completely different people. So while mentoring is a great way to get started, especially if you've never even operated on social media, getting a mentor who understands social media to show you the ropes is a beautiful idea. But when you're ready to really start monetizing your business and creating your business that works for you, it's really great to have a coach as well. So after Sharon, I started working with Raina, who was a business coach. Like, she was coined as a business coach in the creative industry. She did not specifically work with photographers. She worked with all types of creatives. And she really helped me in defining my ideal client, naming a lot of things. Like, she was really good in the meat and potatoes, the like life wheel of like assessing your work-life balance and things like that. She was a very, very great coach for me at the time. And then through her, I did some stuff with Amber McHugh, who I would also consider a business coach, but she may actually fall into a little bit of this advisor category. So let's talk a little bit about an advisor. I've never actually gone out and hired someone with the specific title business advisor, but I have definitely had friends who have. I even have met people who are business advisors. So what makes an advisor different from a coach or a mentor is they usually have a specific area of expertise, like maybe legal, financial, marketing. You could hire a marketing advisor. They're very direct. They are professional. They're often high level. So they have a lot of experience and a lot of expertise in this area. And their goal is to really give expert-based recommendations that will help you make decisions. So again, they're not saying, here's what worked for me, here's what you should do. They're looking at the whole picture. They're probably looking at a lot of data, at a lot of numbers, and then they're making a really expert recommendation. This relationship is a little bit different. Usually they're hired to sit on a board or to give very strategic input, very strategic meetings. And you can think about this in the form of high-level guidance from subject matter experts. So if you have a bigger business and you're in kind of like tangled up in a legal thing or building a team, you may hire a very specific advisor for a very specific situation. And then let's go ahead and dive into consultant. So I've done some consultant work. I'm trying to think if I've ever hired a specific consultant. I don't think so. I think most of the people I've worked with would call themselves a strategist, but I could see a strategist and a consultant being very similar. And we can always ask ChatGPT, what's the difference in a strategist and a consultant? I didn't include strategist in this list because I feel like that's a very general term, but I'll do that and come back in just a second. So a consultant is really focused on problem solving and implementation. Okay. So they're very hands-on, analytical, and solution oriented. When I was doing a lot of Facebook group work, I was very much on the consultant level. I was coming in to fix a problem, to build a system, and then to create a specific result. And those relationships are usually more short-term, very project-based. So all those consulting projects that I did, most of them were 3 months. Some of them were 6 months, but I found 3 months to really be the sweet spot in working with people on that level. And that looks like, let me come in, let me fix this and deliver a result. And then you move on. So I did some consulting, helping people build marketing teams, Facebook groups, all the things. And this, while it wasn't my favorite type of work to do in the form of it's like an 8 out of 10 instead of a 10 out of 10. I love it. I enjoy it, but I don't love it as much as I love coaching and really diving in with my Elevate members. It didn't light me up in the same way because it didn't really activate that dharma, that ability to be free flowing and to listen to, someone's wildest dreams. And it's very goal oriented, very numbers driven. Okay. Let me come in, fix this, and deliver a result. All right. I just threw strategist into the mix because then I just got curious. So let's ask ChatGPT, what makes a strategist different than a consultant? And this totally checks out and makes sense now that I'm looking at it. So a strategist really focus on the big picture. They're mapping it out for you, the what and the why. This is a high level thinker that's helping you create a game plan. So when I think strategist, I think roadmap. I think, check boxes. We are coming up with a strategy to get from point A to point B. Their goals are usually around clarifying vision, direction, and they're not necessarily responsible for the execution. And these relationships can be more ongoing, and they usually work closely with leadership. So either you as the CEO or the team. So this could look like, let's build a really smart plan or roadmap that aligns with your specific goals and visions. So that's what a strategist is. So now let's go back into my journey. And I know I have worked with a couple strategists over the years, creating my podcast. I hired someone to really help me map out what that looks like. I would say Raina, who was my coach, was also very much a strategist. We would map out certain projects or launches together. So again, a lot of people are both. What I did in my VIP day with Rocky recently was very strategy oriented. We were mapping out the rest of her year. So it was very specific to what she wanted to accomplish. And we didn't do a lot of actual coaching because she didn't have any specific barriers that were coming up other than, I just want someone to help me plan my year so that I can sit down and feel really organized. And some of us big picture thinkers, that's very valuable. So I do incorporate some of that in my coaching. It's almost impossible is not the right word. When you are working with someone intimately and you know the ins and outs of their business and you're working with them on a longer term basis, I would say it's rare to see someone fall into just one of these buckets. I mean, I could put up a ton of boundaries and just say, I'm just a business coach and we're only going to do, calls that are about an hour or two long, and we're just going to dive into your barriers. And everything would be really built around what is blocking you, what's preventing you, where do you need clarity in your business? And I do love that. If I had to rank these, it's 110% my favorite thing to do is to look at where you are and where you want to be and what exactly is stopping you from getting there. 100% my jam. That's where Elizabeth Henson lives, right? But while I'm working with these clients, it's also really fun to get out the whiteboard and to like plan out what they're doing next and how to get from point A to point B. And a lot of times that's when the barriers come up. So we might be in the thick of mapping out a strategy or doing a little bit of mentoring. And that's when those limited beliefs or barriers will show their face. And that's really fun too. So I love all of it. But like I said, if I had to categorize myself, I would 100% put myself in the business coach category. So I'd be really curious if you're listening to this and you are like a coach, a mentor, a consultant, or one of these, did this land, spot on with what you're calling yourself? So if you're out there and you are calling yourself a coach, is it possible that you're being more of a mentor? Or maybe you're calling yourself a mentor and you're actually doing a lot of coaching. And again, there's no wrong way. There's absolutely no wrong way. What I'm trying to do here is to manage expectations for those of you that are interested in hiring somebody ahead of you or someone to help you, a coach, a mentor, a strategist, whatever it might be, so that you can really make solid decisions and ask the right questions. So if you heard me talking about a strategist and you're like, yes, I want someone to sit next to me and to plan my next launch, all the way from like creating the idea to then selling the idea and how I'm going to sell it and what tools I'm going to use. And that really landed with you. Like, I need a launch strategist. Now you kind of know what questions to ask when you meet with that person to be really specific on, are they going to get you from point A to point B, and can they properly manage the expectations of the outcome? You guys, I'm such a stickler for managing expectations. You can never fail in your business if you properly are managing expectations at all times. Really, really important. Like if your customers and clients know what to expect from you and you follow up on your word and you're always in a place of integrity, you really can't screw it up, right? Even if that is built around making a mistake, you can properly manage those expectations and communicate. And we're all human beings that are going to human sometimes, and that's okay. And if people get mad or upset, that's okay too. But you have done your part in managing those expectations of what kind of problems you solve and how you work with people. What I don't want you to do is try to be the everything person, right? To categorize yourself as a business coach, but then all of a sudden now you've got people that want to hire you to help them build a team, or people that want to hire you to build out a webinar, or someone that wants to, do rebranding. Don't be the everything person. Really find your sweet spot and how it lights you up to help people. Some people love just mentoring, like love. Here's what I did. Let me sell you my process. And they're not going to break down barriers or ask you any, highly trained, thoughtful questions. They're just going to tell you how they did it. And that's okay too, right? So it's all beautiful and amazing and important. And I think where you are in your business is going to determine what kind of help you need. And I think the earlier in business you are, I think looking for a mentor, but also a mentor that has some of this business coaching experience is going to get you farther than a mentor by itself. And then as you get more advanced, then you may need the advisors or the consultants, once you're building an actual corporation or larger company. And then a strategist, those can be ongoing based on very, very specific needs. And sometimes those can be short-term and sometimes those can be long-term. But I hope this was helpful in kind of defining some of the different ones. Oh, I didn't finish my journey. Okay. After Raina, Amber McHugh, and then I found James Wedmore, who 100% is a business coach. However, he has so much experience and also teaches people the how that I would also bucket him in mentor and strategist as well. Now, he's not going to be a strategist in the form of like, let me sit down with you one-on-one and create your strategy. But he has like literally every strategy or formula that you could possibly need already within his program. So what he's doing is he's providing the strategy, the technique, the tactics, everything in his program so that he doesn't have to actually teach that one-on-one to anybody. You can grab exactly what you need inside Business by Design, but then on calls and in these group settings where he's working with us, he is very much, business coaching, trying to help people really uncover what the bigger barrier or problem is. And outside of James, I have not felt like I needed a specific business coach, but I've hired a lot of specialists, specialists in the form of strategists, or maybe they're coaching in a very specific niche. Like I worked with Tracy Goodwin, who does psychology of the voice. Very much a coach in what she does, but it is very specific in the form of, I wouldn't even say strategy, actually, probably advising, but also very much coaching. It's just very, very niche, but offering her expertise, her very, very specific expertise to help her students really understand how to leverage the power of their voice. Very specific. And I know there's been others along the way, but those are the big ones. That's my big Rolodex of like, if anyone was like, who were your teachers? Who were your mentors? That's them. And I really don't, I hire a lot of help, like consultants. I would say hiring like a copywriter is like hiring a consultant. They're coming in to fix something and to do the work and then to move on. And then I have contractors who work in my business. My team is full of contractors. They're just like, that just means they work on a contract basis rather than an employee. But yeah, I don't really get a ton of shiny objects syndrome on like needing to work with everyone after I discovered James. And when Jenny came along, who is his partner, I did take her course on intuition. And I would say that's where a lot of my energy goes now, that I've learned to really trust myself in building my business. Of course, I believe in the power of having coaches and having all the things, and I still, do that, and I still have that in James. But I've spent a lot of my investments in, I want to say self-care, but that sounds too basic. Self-discovery, really learning to hone my skills with trusting my intuition, to make faster decisions, to unlock my ability to assess risk even better. I mean, that's where I'm really been diving in now, is like, how can I just continue to master my own thoughts and my own way of being so that I can, continue to manifest the results that I desire. But I feel like James is my forever coach. I absolutely love him. He coached me on how to be a coach because I'm a coach inside his program, Business by Design, which is launching very soon. So if you're interested in working with James, just make sure you follow along. You can't miss it. Just head over to his Instagram. I'm not an affiliate. I'm on the alumni sales team. So there's a good chance you could end up chit-chatting with one of us on the phone if you are interested in joining the Business by Design. If you run an online business in the form of a course, membership, online coaching, highly recommend. I joined his program in 2019 and just haven't turned back. Now I'm like totally sucked in as a coach in his program. And I love it really so much. It's shaped so much of who I am. So hopefully that was helpful. And like I said, when I work with clients, I'm very much a business coach, but I'm infusing, mentorship. I'm infusing some strategy, but it is always very loose and presented so that it's like you can choose your own adventure to best support the direction that you want to go. And inside Elevate, what I think is so special about Elevate and the way that I work with my clients is it's really not a course. It comes with my signature course, which of course is just a good foundation to have, but the program itself is not a course. It is a business coaching opportunity. It is an opportunity to have a business coach in me and work with me around the clock in your business, in community setting as well as one-to-one. It has both, which is, I don't want to say rare, but I think one of the most effective business coaching models that you can have. I think doing only one-to-one can be a little bit of disservice because you can learn so much that you didn't even know you needed by watching other people. It keeps the price point very affordable when it's a scalable model like this. That's how I'm allowed to be a one-to-one business coach at such an affordable price point, because the way we've built the program, it's extremely scalable with my time. I just feel like everybody wins. I feel like it's such a cool opportunity. And then we have voice access. So you can ask me questions any time of day, and I just go through and check my little voice messages when I'm walking the dog, and it's my dream. I love it. This has really been as far as, benefiting the way I like to live and run my business, this is the best thing I've ever built. And I feel like as far as serving my clients, it's the best thing I've ever built. So ElizabethHenson.co/elevate. If you're interested, you can join the priority list to learn more. Thank you so much for being here today and listening. And if you have any other questions about what it's like to work with a coach, or any questions in general, I would love to hear them. Just DM me on Instagram at elizabeth.henson, and we can keep this conversation going. All right, I'll see you guys soon.